The first day of former President Donald Trump's criminal trial started off with a predictable loss.
Oh no!
Justice Juan Merchan has denied Trump's last-minute request for his recusal. Wait. He tried to get the judge to recuse the case. What for? We'll get to the details. This is the first case of a former American president being forced to stand trial, so obviously everything is nuts. There's a lot going on here. Trump is facing 34 felony counts for faking business paperwork in an alleged cover-up of his hush money payment to porn star Stormy Daniels back in 2016. So normally falsifying business records in New York is a misdemeanor. However, it can be elevated to a felony if the falsification is in pursuit of another crime. In this case, election or campaign finance. So campaign finance law specifically. So yeah, at issue is Merchan's daughter. Okay, so this is what the Trump team has brought up as a problem, as something that Merchan should recuse himself for. Now, Merchan's daughter ran a firm engaging in digital campaign work and fundraising for Democrats. All right, so they're like, aha, that's a conflict of interest. How? How exactly does that make Merchan himself biased against Donald Trump? Well, I mean, we don't have any evidence of anything direct, but she didn't work for Democrats, so obviously he must be tainted. Really? Okay. There's more. The Trump defense incorrectly pointed to what they believed was her social media account and said, look at those posts, the bias against Donald Trump. Again, nothing really to do with Judge Merchan. They also complained about a media interview in which the judge himself appeared to have spoken generally about the need for intense preparation for members of the judiciary when it comes to trial. I don't understand how any of that equates bias against Donald Trump. So Merchan went through the accusations one at a time and explained why this request was utter nonsense. Quote, to say that these claims are attenuated is an understatement, which means, of course, the claims are weak. That's what attenuated means. And so, man, this is super weak sauce, okay? We're going to have to move on here. Merchan said the defendant has not reasonably or logically explained how he happens to be compromised. Okay, so I want you to explain, if you want me to recuse, you need to present some evidence that I'm compromised, reasonably and logically. Make the case. Oh, you can't? Sad day. Quote, it is not clear to this court how that demonstrates bias in favor or against either party, or how it would constitute grounds for recusal. He noted that Trump's team resorted to a series of inferences, innuendos, and unsupported speculation, to which I say, are we at all surprised? It's pretty much all they have. And there is, of course, a reason that they're trying to push for this last-minute recusal. But Merchan added there is no basis for it. The court will not address this matter further, pending a decision from the appellate division. So, look, if there's bias, obviously we can't have that. So, and look, the whole jury selection process, which is ongoing, that also is there to weed out bias. And so that's what they're trying to do, to make sure that Trump gets a fair and impartial trial, which every American is entitled to, should have. So, yeah, we can't have bias, and the legal system is set up to make sure that that doesn't exist, that they can get rid of as much bias as possible. Great. Now, prosecutors, for example, wanted to admit evidence, right? So bias in evidence, for example. Prosecutors wanted to admit the Access Hollywood tape and the sexual assault allegations against Trump, including the E. Jean Carroll case. They wanted to add that into evidence. What did Merchan say? No, we're not going to admit this stuff into evidence in this case. Merchan said the Access Hollywood videotape itself should not come in because it is so prejudicial against Donald Trump. He also said that he didn't think the E. Jean Carroll deposition should come in because it would be building a trial into a trial. You don't want that. And on the allegations of sexual assault, Merchant said that he will not allow Trump to be prejudiced by what he called a rumor. Quote, "They are very prejudicial, and at this point, given what we know today, it was just a rumor." He also ruled that the prosecution cannot tie Michael Cohen's guilty plea into Donald Trump. So, look, Merchant will allow other things, for example, McDougal's testimony, Karen McDougal specifically. However, he limited the scope of what she could say. McDougal said it's not necessary for the jury to hear, for example, that Trump continued his affair with McDougal while his wife, Melania, was pregnant and after she gave birth. So there's a lot of stuff that it cannot be admitted into evidence because of how prejudicial it would be against Donald Trump, how bad it would look for him. So understand, the judge is like, I'm trying to make this thing as fair and impartial because there is a lot of negative things that would absolutely color a jury against Donald Trump and would show a pattern. And so leaving these things out gives him at least a chance. Now, Merchant, however, will allow a series of stories from the National Enquirer that attacked Trump's opponents during the 2016 election cycle to be used as evidence. After all, AMI, the owner of the Enquirer, ran those stories after an August 2015 meeting at Trump Tower, where David Pecker, hilarious, Michael Cohen, and Trump devised this catch-and-kill plan to suppress negative stories about Trump in order to help his election bid. And that's what the case is ultimately about. So that's relevant evidence right there. All right. So once again, part of the process is to make sure the relevant evidence gets in and things that are too prejudicial are left out to ensure that Trump has a fair trial. A far cry from what Trump is claiming on his platforms, True Social, and to reporters, and we're trying to bias against the Biden White House controlling all of this. No, he's going simply through the court in order to get a fair and speedy trial on things that he's alleged to have done. The stakes are too big to have any sort of obvious bias or mess up here, especially when it comes to the prosecutors who are trying to bring this case against Donald Trump. And I think everybody knows that. But understand, the ultimate goal of what the Trump team is trying to do is they're not trying to win this case. What they're trying to do is delay it. And the most obvious thing to do is to claim that there is a bias by the judge and force the court to have to find a new judge, which takes time. And the more delays that they get, the more that helps them, because this might be the only trial that will happen before the election. And again, he's trying to delay this until after the election because of what it could mean for his campaign. And so that's the ultimate goal here. Delay, 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 latch onto anything that they can to prove or allege bias and gum up the works.